Okay, the next resource which I do use with classes, you have to be selective with this, is called Coogle. I've used this particularly well with A-level revision techniques where learners can collaborative learning, so they can all log in this at once and make some quite exciting sort of things. So it's like Google, except for it begins with a C. We can pull up as a web page. We can log in. I am going to log into one of my accounts because then I can actually show you the work that my learners have done in the past. So the most impressive piece of work originally was this. Literally, this was an old AS specification. You can see how many. I actually had 2 different classes at 2 different times doing this at one of my previous colleges. And then the idea was we basically built up a huge mind map of revision techniques. And I split the groups off into different sections. Different learners did different areas. But basically, by using the bullet points from the specification, we developed resources in a team. And literally, this was all done in about half an hour's to an hour's worth of work because learners could work collaboratively. And the problem is, when learners first start to use things like this, they get rather overexcited. They start deleting other people's work. So you do have to get them used to it first. Some groups it just will not be appropriate for. And then one of the particular quirks with this Coogle is what normally happens is at some point at the end, you're probably going to have to sit down for 15 minutes or so and actually sort out the layout of it because it does go wrong, especially while learners are doing it. But once you have, you can normally export it as like a PDF or something like that and save in a revision notes or potentially come back to it in different years. There are a couple of drawbacks, but with the right group, it's worth going through them, I'll be honest with you. So let's go back to the main screen. So we create a brand new diagram. Now, the biggest sticking point here is actually getting learners to be able to access this. There is no quick way I have found of doing it. Unfortunately, it does literally mean you have to type in their email addresses. Now, there are quicker ways you can do this. You can copy and paste them in. And if I just try and add 2 at once, so I can put one in there. If I then put a semicolon in, you'll notice by only typing 1 in, I have sent 2 invites out. These, I think they need to be Google accounts. I don't think they have to be. To be honest with you, most students do tend to have Google accounts. There might be the odd few that only use iPhones and things like that. But they could quickly create one. It's accepted these email addresses, so maybe they don't have to be Google. Maybe that's just me. But they can then sign in, and effectively they can then help build a large collaboration. So you can click the thing, and so here we could have. You can see my inspiration isn't working very well today. And basically you could have, I used to find with this, after you got about 12 logins, 12 learners, it tends to slow down. So you may want to double up your learners. Set you may want to do some pre-work where you actually set off the initial branches and then you can set teams off on each of the individual groups. That keeps them away from each other rather than being meddling at the start. And yes, you do need to do some dry rehearsals so to get used to using it. It's not something I would use as a lesson observation for the first time. You definitely have to practice this out first. But, I mean, when you actually look at the results of it, it is a brilliant collaborative learning that can achieve so much in such a short period of time. Let's go to one I did recently. Yep. So this was a piece of work we did in class. I literally did it more as a research. So I had to look into the different investigative powers. This is from computer related. And there was a fair bit of duplication, so I did have to tidy this up after. But I've done very little to this. I've done this in the classes. We discussed through it afterwards. But very quick revision, and this, obviously for some learners, they learn particularly well on how to do this. Obviously, smaller groups are better. What you can do is, once you've got this set up, you can quite literally, you can lock them out. So at the minute, everyone can view this diagram, you can see, but literally, I don't think they can mess around. You can lock them out from doing it. You can share it, so at the minute they can view it. You can see here they can download it as a PDF, or you can do it and put that onto your Moodle, your learning box. And you can they mess around with this sometimes at the side. They will have chat conversations at the side. Don't forget, they're more used to using software than you are. So literally, you need to keep an eye out for this, because literally they can sit around here and just mess about all of a sudden because they can. And it is difficult to turn a lot of these functions off. So it does sometimes introduce a little bit more staffed classroom management issues. You can scroll through the history if it's something which is done over time, so you can see who's messed about with what, if that's what you need to do. And like I say, you can, if people are being particularly pesty, you can literally change the individuals to a read-only if they're messing about. But then again, anything which, when you then inflict control, normally creates issues. So, yeah, I've used it as a brilliant tool. It's certainly something you want to get out at some point in the year, probably when you're mainly doing revision sort of work. And this is Coogle, a brilliant collaborative learning app, mainly for mind maps. Definitely recommend it. It's one of those you just have to try now. And just because I didn't finish it off on a previous recording, when